Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about conducting scientific research as a student, and I'm going to focus on references and appendix. And my presentation has the following outline. First, I'm going to talk about the references. I'm going to explain what these are. Then I'm also going to talk about the appendix and what information goes into the appendix. Then I'm going to summarize the information. So let's get started. The references typically come after the 5th chapter or the last chapter of the research report, and typically the last chapter will be the chapter containing the conclusions and recommendations. So after this particular chapter, the references will come, and the references are made up of various academic materials that as a student you consulted that helped you gain information or knowledge that help you to do the work. And these academic materials may include things like books, journal papers, conference papers, theses, presentations, websites, etc. And all these materials were material that you consulted, which actually helped you to formulate your ideas to do your work. And the information that is typically presented in the references include the name of the authors, the year of publication of the academic material, the title of the paper, book, or academic material, the publisher, a certain number that we call ISBN, and then the ISSN number also, and then the DOI number, and then you can have something like the website address, and you can have several other information. All this information are providing the full reference to help any reader, anyone who picks up a report to read, to be able to identify the reference such that if they want to find it, or if they want to look for it, they can actually find it and also use it for their own work or verify some of the things that have been described in the report. And each full reference provided must match each citation made in the main report. So the short form of these references are made inside the text of your report, especially when you state certain facts and certain figures. You must reference them, especially if you're taking them from another material. The shorthand of these references are called citation, and you made them inside the reports. And each citation that is made inside the reports actually must correspond to a full reference at the reference section in your report. And typically all the full references would have to be arranged in alphabetical order. And each one of them must match each citation inside the text. And there are different reference formats available that are used in the scientific space, and each academic institution or each university has adopted one or a few of the formats. And as a student, it will be advisable to find out from your supervisor, from your school, which particular format is applicable in your situation. The appendix typically comes after the references, and it's usually the last section of the research report. And in the appendix, you are supposed to provide extra information or data or processes or procedures or even pictures. And this information would typically be something that does not necessarily fit into any of the main chapters of your reports. And usually this extra information or data is an important extension of the research work. It could typically be some diagrams of equipment that were you used during the procedures, or some pictures of certain offices, or even pictures or diagrams of you performing the work, especially if it was some experiment you had to do. Some universities may require evidence that you actually did the work at the university, or you did the work on your own, especially if it's some fabrication from some experiment or whatever it is. So photographs of work in progress or you in the work working, these kinds of information can be presented in the appendix, or some formulas that were used for certain estimates or certain procedures. You can demonstrate them within the appendix. These are all supplementary information that helps the reader to actually fully comprehend what is in the report. And the research report does not necessarily need to have an appendix, because not all research reports need to have an appendix. If your research report does not need to have an appendix, that's fine. You can go without the appendix. However, some reports that feel, or some students that feel that they have some extra information that have no place in a main report, but they still want to present. All this information can be packaged and put into the appendix. And a well-written appendix should be able to explain certain details of the report, which can guide the reader to fully comprehend or fully understand what various steps, which we are taking in the particular research, or to fully also understand what kinds of equipment you use, because here you may actually show even photographs, detailed photographs of various parts of certain equipment that you used over there, and the reader can actually see these things and learn something from that. So in summary, the references typically come after the 5th chapter of the academic report or after the last chapter of the academic research report, and the appendix comes typically after the references, and it's usually the last section of the research report. And the main aim of the references is to describe or state the various sources of information that you consulted or cited in conducting the research, because these sources are what help you to formulate your ideas in carrying out your research, and you must acknowledge them by referencing them. And there are different referencing formats available within the scientific landscape, and different universities have adopted different referencing formats that they prefer or that they use. And as a student, it is important that you find out what referencing format your university is using, and then you stick to that. And the appendix also contains extra information which may not necessarily fit into the main report, but which may also be important extension of the work, something that you may want your readers to be aware of, or you want your readers to also see, so all these can be packaged and presented in the appendix. However, appendix is not a necessary component of the research report, and not all research reports have an appendix. So if your research report is written and presented in such a way that you feel that there's no need for an appendix, you can take the appendix off. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. Thanks so much for watching.